Are your tools going with you out of the workshop? Max tool cases are ideal for motorsport professionals who need to regularly transport their toolkits. Visit maxcase.com.au to learn more and enter the code SPECIALSTAGE for a discount.
Welcome to yet another episode of RallySport Magazine's Special Stage podcast. We hope you're enjoying our episodes as we go through the year. It's hard to believe it's almost the end of July, but I'm welcoming back Peter Whitten, who's had a few weeks off the podcast. It's good to chat to you again.
G'day, Luke, and welcome back to you too. You've just come back from a fantastic journey to the UK.
Yeah, it was great to be able to welcome along our RallySport Mag tour guests to many locations across the United Kingdom that I hadn't been to personally, and none of the tour guests had either. So we were all ticking a lot of things off our bucket list. We went to M Sport, we went to the Ford Heritage Museum, we went to Goodwood. So there was a lot of things there that were really, really cool from a motoring and motorsport side of things. So I'm back in Australia and really, really looking forward to going up to Queensland this weekend for what will be a really cool event.
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly. But it's great to hear that the tour went well. And as you mentioned, you saw some iconic locations, including just outside the rally fraternity, but the Formula One factory at Red Bull, which must have been just sensational to see.
Yeah, I think they could build a competitive Rally 1 car in about a week flat. The amount of technology and the amount of amazing work that goes on there is pretty hard to believe. And yeah, no wonder they're at the top, and no wonder there's such huge infrastructure and huge money, I guess you could say, that's spent in the world of Formula One. And it's understandable why, the team is so good, because every room we walked into had everybody taken aback by the detail in things that happen and the amount of performance they're able to get from every single part of the car. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And if only rallying had that kind of detail, but maybe it gets to that point, maybe down the line.
Well, yeah, and you obviously had a good look at the M Sport facilities too, up in Cockermouth in Cumbria. And it'll be good down the track to have a chat about that too, and maybe to compare some differences between what you saw at the Formula One team as opposed to what you saw at the WRC team.
Definitely. We can chat about that at some stage, and hopefully we can run another motorsport tour of sorts to the UK, and we can get to experience some more things and share some of those things that we really enjoyed with some more tour guests down the track. Now, if you haven't subscribed to us on the website, please do so. There's more and more content going up every day on the website. One of the news items that's happened in the past couple of weeks since we last recorded the podcast was the fact that Targa Tasmania has been cancelled. Now, not only has this year's event been cancelled, they've also changed the way that they're going to run their events in the future. They're not going to be using Motorsport Australia, which is not a first for Targa and all the Targa events, but to be doing so in the environment that it's in now is pretty big news.
It sure is. And I guess, as you say, the decision to cancel Targa Tasmania for this year probably wasn't a huge surprise to a lot of people, given the fact that there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding the tarmac rules and the recently introduced licensing requirements for tarmac rallies, which has caused a lot of consternation and disappointment, I guess, from a lot of tarmac competitors, and probably rightly so. And we're going to touch on that a bit further down the track. But as you say, Luke, Targa has run under the Australian Autosport Alliance, or AASA, previously. They went away from what was then CAMS to AASA, and then Motorsport Australia got back involved with Targa because it's such a huge event. Obviously, with over 300 competitors every year, there's a huge amount in licensing fees and competition licenses and stuff like that. But Targa has decided that they can no longer work with Motorsport Australia under the current requirements. So that'll make a big change moving forward.
You worked quite a bit for Targa Tasmania over a number of years from a media standpoint. And during those years that they were part of AASA and they were using their rules, did you find anything different in the way that AASA did it versus what then CAMS did it? Or was it really much of a muchness in terms of how things were run?
Well, from my side of things, I was working on the media team down there. So from my point of view, there was no difference that I saw. I mean, clearly from an organisational point of view, there probably was many changes and many differences to the two organisations or the two governing bodies. But from my point of view, it wasn't obvious. So I don't think there's, I don't know, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes to competitors moving forward in terms of how the events are run. The Targa events are very, very professionally run by a professional team down in Tasmania, and I'm sure that will continue in the future. Hopefully next year, 2024, the event will come back bigger and better than ever in April when it's scheduled to run. In the meantime, I guess we're just going to have to twiddle our thumbs and see what progresses with the rule changes and the licensing requirements and see where all that ends up.
Yeah, I hope the event comes back bigger and better than ever. I think from a AASA point of view as well, there will be some changes, of course, to Targa Tasmania, because not only do Motorsport Australia have to look after their image and how things are portrayed from their side of things, the event has to do the same. So it's not like they can continue with the same rules, but in a different governing body. I think Targa Tasmania as well will have to think about how they run their events and work out what is the perfect medium in terms of the cars that are competing, the drivers that are competing, and find the perfect mix that satisfies AASA. It might not satisfy Motorsport Australia in terms of how they want their tarmac events run, but Targa Tasmania as an event also has to be upstanding and be run in a way that is as safe as possible for competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's not just Targa Tasmania that they're talking about. I mean, it's Targa Great Barrier Reef, it's Targa High Country as well. So there's the three events that they run that will all be most likely run under AASA. But also, they're not the only tarmac series that is running under AASA. I think it's the Australian Tarmac Championship is running events at Mount Borbor, at Lake Mountain, and several others as well. And they've been using AASA as the governing body and the insurance provider for quite some time with success. And in the gravel side of things, the AMSAG Rally Series in New South Wales has, for a long, long time, used AASA and doesn't have a lot of problems with that either.
Safety, of course, is number one, and I'm sure the events will go ahead next year, and I'm sure that competitors will be back again enjoying tarmac rallying, which is a great part of the sport.
Yeah, and I think just before we finish on that, Luke, I think the important thing to say here is, even though from our side of things, and we're obviously a gravel-specific website, I guess, basically, but tarmac rallying in Australia is such a huge sport. It's such a huge number of people that compete in the Targa events, in the AASA sort of tarmac championship events, but also in the Targa West events over in Western Australia. So there are hundreds and hundreds of competitors all over the country, and we certainly need the tarmac rallying scene to bounce back.
I mentioned on the last podcast that we'd be getting in touch with the company that is set to run the driver training for the licensing requirements for Motorsport Australia. We haven't made contact with them yet due to time constraints and the busyness of the last couple of weeks, but we will endeavour to get in touch with them and clear some things up about what is the requirements for Motorsport Australia tarmac licenses. Going to Rally Estonia, before we get on to the hot topic of Rally Queensland this weekend, the fast and flowing roads will be great to watch from. Matt Whitten from our team is there. He's going to be taking photos, been enjoying the European rallying lifestyle. What do you think of Estonia, and where do you think the results might come from?
I must say, Luke, that it's probably the event that I'm looking forward to, perhaps more than any other event so far this year. And I guess mainly it's the fast-flowing nature of the Estonian roads. It's the jumps, it's the big sweeping corners. But also, I think we get a chance to see Oit Tanak on his home event, and we all know that he's struggled this year, competitiveness, even though he did win in Sweden, but the Puma hasn't quite been there with the Toyota and the Hyundai. But I think this weekend, it's definitely not Oit's rally to lose, but I think he'll be taking an approach where not win or crash, but win or miss out trying. He's going to be going very hard, I'm sure.
And missing out trying might end up in a big accident, but let's hope that's not the case and we get a nice fight at the front. But I was looking at the entry list the other day. Clearly, the entry list doesn't change all that much from a Rally 1 point of view. But there's only about 3 or 4 drivers that realistically can win. Kelly Rovanperä, of course, can win anywhere. Alvin Evans, I think, can win in Estonia. I also think that Oit Tanak can clearly win on his home events. Esa-Pekka Lappi's only ever won one World Rally, and Thierry Neuville has never been good on fast gravel. So it's not going to be a wide-ranging fight for the win. There might be only 2 or 3 guys that can really challenge for the win.
It will be interesting, won't it? And in the Hyundai camp, I'm sort of fully expecting Lappi to be quicker than Neuville in this event. Clearly, that the Estonian roads are somewhat similar to his home event in Finland, and I think Lappi will be, I think clearly the fastest of the Hyundais. Another dark horse, I reckon, Luke, is Takamoto Katsuda. He's clearly done well on these fast events before. He's very good mates with Oit Tanak, so he spent quite a bit of time in Estonia and presumably on the roads. I'm certainly not predicting Taka to have a win or maybe not even a podium, but I reckon he'll be very, very quick and might surprise some people.
He's down to score manufacturer's points for Toyota, so it gives him a bit of a challenge because he needs to score manufacturer's points for Toyota, who are clearly chasing the manufacturer's title. But this is one of the events alongside Finland where we think Katsuta could really challenge for a podium, but he's got to balance everything and work out the best strategy.
Yeah, and another interesting battle I think will be between the Ford Puma of Pierre-Louis Loubet and new Hyundai signing in the Rally 1 car, Timo Sunonen. Again, Sunonen will be fast because of his familiarity with the fast-flowing roads, but Loubet has been in that car for quite some time. So if Loubet doesn't beat Sunonen, does that say that he's not going as well as we think? Or if Sunonen doesn't win, is that the opposite? So let's wait and see.
Of course, Timo Sunonen has been promoted to Hyundai's top-line squad, but the battle will still go on in the WRC2 Championship. You've got some thoughts on where you think that might fall, Peter?
Well, yeah, Luke, I think clearly it's probably going to be Oliver Solberg who'd be the man to catch. But what an entry list for WRC2. I mean, if you look through the top 8 or 10 drivers, I mean, there's Solberg, there's Gus Greensmith, Emma Lindholm, who's now got the Hyundai drive, Andreas Mikkelsen, Sami Piari, Egon Kor, Marco Bellaccio, George Linnamay. I mean, there's so many fantastic names there who we've seen in either WRC or the European Championship driving these WRC2 cars, the Skodas, the Hyundais, the Fiestas. It's going to be a fantastic battle.
Yeah, Oliver Solberg's not entered into WRC2. He's clearly in a Rally 2 car, but he's picking and choosing his events, which is a funny one. But then again, he's still going to be compared to those guys in the same cars. So it's going to be good to follow. And as we said before, there's only a few guys who could win in the Rally 1 car, but there's plenty who can win in WRC2.
There sure is, yeah. It's going to be a great weekend, no doubt.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to follow Rally Estonia all that closely. I'll be up at Rally Queensland, which is really the talking point we wanted to get onto for this podcast. It feels like a long time since we've had a national championship round here in Australia. It has been 2 months, but things will be raring and ready to go once Saturday morning gets here.
Yeah, it will, won't it? Quite a lot's changed. It has been 2 months, but quite a lot has changed in terms of the cars that are running, the specification of some of the cars, and the new cars as well. And I guess for me, I can see this weekend being pretty much, I believe, a domination from the Toyota Gazoo racing team of Lewis and Harry Bates. They've got the new engines which have been rebuilt in Germany at Toyota Gazoo Racing. They've just come back, and yeah, the both boys have reported to us that the cars have a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more torque, and a new exhaust manifold, which certainly Harry Bates will be very pleased with.
Definitely, yeah. And they had a couple of days testing in Canberra before the event, and they've got a pre-event test today as we record this on Thursday. But also Nathan Quinn, who does have experience on the Gympie roads. He competed there in 2021. And as Ryan Williams mentions in my interview with him a little bit later on in the podcast, he's got a lot of experience in the roads around Imbil, probably more than anybody else on the entry list. So he could be one to watch out for if his Hyundai can stay reliable.
Definitely, yeah. And Quinny's always been very good on the technical sort of rougher roads that Rally Queensland are probably famous for. And One thing that's really worked in his favour this year is that the Hyundai i20, probably 12 or 18 months now they've been running that car, and that's really got the reliability to a point now where he can pretty much confidently finish most heats of most rallies. So that's great for Quinny. His performance, I guess, will be closely matched against the brand new Mitsubishi Mirage of Troy Dowell.
That's right. Moving down the entry list, Peter, yes. Seated down the order a little bit is Troy Dowell, and there's guys like Luke Anea. There's a new Skoda Fabia for Eddie Maguire, which he'll be learning across the weekend, of course. Do any one of those drivers and those teams stand out to you as a real chance for a podium?
Well, I think Troy Dowell in particular, I mean, the active rally sport team, they're pretty confident that the Mirage is going to be very quick. And I think Troy has, as you've mentioned, has got quicker at each event that he's been to. And I think he'll be really one to watch. Eddie Maguire is an interesting one. He debuted the new Skoda Fabia to him in Tasmania last month. He's seated quite low down, number 12, which is very bewildering to me. He's behind his brother Steve, he's behind Bodie Reading, Daniel Gonzalez, Jamie Luff, even though he had that brilliant performance at the Forest Rally in Western Australia. I think with Eddie, it'll all depend how quickly he can come to grips with a car, but I think it's a proven package, that Skoda Fabia, and he could quite easily and probably will be somewhere around the top 5.
Rally Queensland was based in Gympie in 2021, but before then, when it was part of the Australian Championship and also a part of the Asia Pacific Rally Championship, the stages were based around Imbil, and those Imbil stages became famous with the state and with rallying across the country. You've been there a few times to those Imbil stages. For people who haven't been to Queensland to experience those stages, what can you tell me about them, and can they be compared to anywhere else in the country?
Probably not. I mean, it's difficult to say, and I guess purely from a media point of view, we don't always drive all the stages, so it's difficult to get a real hands-on point of view of what they're like. But they are very challenging, that's for sure. And some drivers love them, some drivers don't like them, and it's and the weather will have a huge impact as well. I think you mentioned that the weather for this weekend is meant to be pretty much fine and sunny, whereas last year the rally was cancelled because of wet weather. So any precipitation can have a major effect on the surface of those roads.
Yeah, definitely can. And this time last year, the rally was under a huge cloud, and the cloud was dropping a lot of rain. It was the same sort of time, 20th, 21st, 22nd of July last year, and it was a real shame to be able to miss out on that one. But the weather gods have been very kind on Queensland, and they've been able to get their round up, and I'm sure the event will run just as smoothly. Across the weekend, we'll be looking for all the news and all the important stories that will be happening across the rally weekend, and there'll be content galore after the event. We'll be chasing some comments on how new cars performed, on how new engines performed, or I guess rebuilt engines for the Toyotas, and really catch up on what should be a really good weekend of rallying.
It's easy to forget that this is only the third round of the championship this year. So including this one, we've still got 4 to go. So, and as Lewis Bates mentioned in a story that we ran yesterday, even though he's leading the championship, there's still all to play for.
It definitely is. The top 3 are closer than they were this time last year, with clearly the 2 Bates brothers and also Nathan Quinn. You just got to keep building points throughout the season, because as Harry Bates found last year, you can have unfortunate mechanical issues at any time, and you never know what can happen. And let's hope by round 4, round 5, and going into the final round of the season, we've got a battle on our hands that we can really sink our teeth into and follow on closely with at the final round in Canberra.
Yeah, that's right. And I think at any event, no matter what level it is, you always want all the best competitors to have a trouble-free run, and for the fastest crew to be victorious at the end of the rally.
Last weekend, Taylor Gill and Dan Brkic got their second FIA Rally Star event under their belt. It was in Austria, and the pair slowly got to grips with the Rally 3 car on tarmac. They'd both never done a tarmac rally before, but it was a 3rd place in class for them, and just more confidence building for their 6-round campaign this year.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Taylor finished only 2.7 seconds behind second place at the end of the rally. So in my mind, it was a fantastic performance. The two guys ahead of them, I think, had quite a bit of tarmac experience before as well. Taylor had none, and he started relatively slowly in his mind. When I spoke to him the other night, he wasn't jumping out of his skin with happiness, but I think he was happy that they got the car to the end of the event again. There was 2 of the 6 cars in the Rally Star field that didn't finish the rally through crashes. One of the guys, Max Smart, has crashed twice in the first 2 events. Taylor basically hasn't put a mark on the car. So things are going really well for them. And I think their improvement and their pace noting experience and their knowledge of tarmac rallying has improved greatly over the last week.
Yeah, I agree. And it's important in a program like that you are fast and you can show your speed, and that you can also demonstrate to the FIA Rally Star judges and the people who you need to impress that you can get through a rally unscathed. Unfortunately, for a few of the guys in the program, they haven't been able to do that. But for Taylor, I think Taylor might be the only guy who's not marked the car.
Yeah, and they were fastest on the power stage as well, which was the last stage of the rally. And Taylor did admit there was some sections in there where it was sort of clenched the cheeks and hope for the best. It does go to prove that he has the speed when everything's going well, and the more experience he gets, the more commitment he's going to have on tarmac, and the faster we're going to see him.
It's that experience thing that's so key. If he's lucky enough to get through to the next stage and compete in the Junior World Championship next year, he's still going to be so raw in terms of international experience, and he's going to have to learn so much event after event. But that's about all that we're going to cover from this week's podcast. Ryan Williams is coming up in the next section of the podcast. We've interviewed him a few times over the past few years, but he's into a four-wheel drive car this weekend for Rally Queensland, his home ARC event. And we talk about why he moved on from the Fiesta and what he's looking to do with the Subaru, both this weekend and in the events ahead. So stick around for that one. And until next time, stay on rallysportmag.com and we can keep you up to date with all the news and happenings of rallying across this side of the world. Peter, thanks for your time, and it's good to have you back.
Good on you, Luke, and enjoy Queensland. And I'm sure Matt's going to enjoy Estonia this weekend while I'm sitting at home here in the cold winter weather. But go and have fun.
Welcome along to our special stage podcast, Ryan Williams. It's the week of your home Australian Rally Championship event. It's important for you to put on a show for your home fans and your family, who I'm sure would be coming to check out the stages. How are you, and welcome along?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great to be along to this podcast. I've been great to listen to it, so now be a part of it is fantastic. But yeah, right before the home event of Rally Queensland, hugely looking forward to it. Put a lot of prep in, still prepping as we speak now, actually, right before the event to, do the best that we can, and in front of, plenty of friends and family and supporters, actually. That was quite the overwhelming part of this rally, actually. I put a call out pretty much for plea for money. Like, rallying's expensive, and just overwhelmed with how many people were supporting me.
That was going to be one of my first questions. That bonnet, or those bonnet names, sorry, and the talk and the question that you guys asked yourself and Brad, your co-driver, about getting some support for the event, because some mechanical issues meant the bill was quite a bit bigger than what it might have been initially. That sounds like it's been a success, and you've been able to get to the start line of Rally Queensland and do some good updates to the car.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We tried to tick every box we could for mechanical, because I don't know, we just want to put on a really good show in our home event, and the supporters. So we've got all new drive shafts all round. Shocks have been a good service thanks to APX. That was a good support from them, and we're just gone over with a fine-tooth comb. So fingers crossed, that's it for mechanical. You never know on rallying, but of course we've tried to do the best of our ability for that.
And I'm sure it's good fun for you not having to travel far at all to the Australian Rally Championship. It's often hard for yourself from Queensland, people from Tasmania, people from Western Australia. I know you're Brisbane based, but is your car close to Gympie, or is it a little bit further away than what you are?
No, the car's probably actually closer to Gympie than sort of where I actually stay.
Yeah.
It's only an hour and a bit to Gympie. Go figure. I actually have to shoot up to Gympie and grab something off Bodie that he brought up for me. So I've already done a trip to Gympie and back this week before the event. But yeah, it's not far for me. And, you know, I'm a day before testing and I'm still got a car and bits and trying to just do last little bits where Bodie, he's been traveling for something like 27 hours, he said, and he started on, I think, Saturday or Sunday. So, yeah, the advantage of a home event, it's only just up the road, but vice versa is, when we head over to Perth or Tassie.
It's amazing the effort that everybody puts in to get to an ARC event and even state events around the country, because not only have you got to prepare yourself in terms of work hours and how you work with your employment schedule, you also need to get there yourself, get accommodation, all that kind of stuff. For the factory team and the factory teams and the well-supported teams up the top, it's a little bit easier than what it is for, like you say, Bodie Reading, yourself, and guys in the production two-wheel drive cup. It's cheaper to do your home round, but it's a nice step for you to come back into the ARC after being missing for the first half of the year. Why, I guess, other than your home round, are you coming back to the ARC?
Well, yeah, after last year, a little bit disappointing. We had the pace in the two-wheel drive Fiesta and, you know, through my own fault and mechanicals, we just couldn't get the championship sealed. And, and then we got the purchase of this new Subaru. And to find your feet, there's no better way at an ARC than to at least be knowing the roads to a degree of the home ARC at Queensland there. And then with a brand new car. So thought it'd be our best chance. And, you know, you never know for the rest of the year. But as for us at the moment, it's just a once off. But yeah, you never know.
Tell me a bit about the car. It's a Subaru Impreza WRX from, I believe, 2004. It's got history that's close to home for you, being built initially by Dave Ferrin. How did the purchase come about?
That's quite a funny story, actually. So, built by Dave for Stewie Reid back in 2004 for the ARC when production cars were the top league of cars. So it was full Group N trim, and it pretty much still is full Group N trim as it is now. And how the purchase of that car came about was I was speaking to Pete Nunn at Coffs Harbour last year and saying, you know, I'd actually like to get into a production car. And he sort of said, oh, well, funny enough, I've actually got a car on, which is Luke, a Nears. We're sort of wanting to offload. Oh, okay. And it just went from there and we started chatting more and more. And I spoke to Dave about it and he said, I built that car. And so that interests me even more. And before you know it, he's grabbing drawings out of filing cabinets of cars that, you know, the car that he built. And so I just led to that. And I ended up scooting down to Melbourne with the car and car trailer, actually driving the car from Tasmania across the boat, tying it down and then driving home. So it was all a whirlwind, big story, but yeah, worth it in the end.
And the first couple of events you've done in it, you've had some mixed fortunes with, but are you enjoying being in the production car and being a little bit faster than what you were last year in the Fiesta?
Yeah, we did a little test and tune, which is the first time I've ever driven a four-wheel drive in anger.
Yeah.
And Brad and I just got to the end of the stage. We just sort of looked at each other and smiled and went, yeah, wow, that's pretty damn cool, that. Bloody hell. And so we proceeded to do about, I think, 150 Ks of just learning the car as much as we could. And then, we went to the first QRC where we were doing well until I decided to drive off the road, but that's all right. The weather got caught up with me, but we still finished third. We were able to get back on the road.
Yeah.
And the most recent event, which is a rally sprint, we knew drive shafts were on their last legs, but we just wanted to get a test in, but it couldn't do the last 8 kilometres. So, again, we were leading up against Clayton Hoy. We know how fast he was. He wasn't on his fine form that day in regards to the car, but we were able to sort of be there or thereabouts. And so it's good to see where we're at. But, yeah, hopefully we can put it all together for a home ARC.
Absolutely. From a budget point of view, the Fiesta and the Subaru are costly in different ways from the outside looking in. Explain a bit more about the costs of the Fiesta compared to the WRX from what you've found so far.
So the Fiesta is actually quite a simple car to run, as you could imagine, being built by M Sport. But the only trouble is of being in Australia is shipping really hammers you for parts, and there's a lot of bespoke parts for that car.
Yeah.
Because the initial buying price of parts for it is not actually that bad, but by the time you got to get it here and pay duty and whatnot, it sort of starts adding up quite a lot. And then whereas a Subaru, well, you've got twice as many moving wheels. You're a heavier car. You're a bit on the older end of the scale. But for example, I had rear hubs that I went and bought, and unfortunately, they're not going to rock up in time. So I just did a call to a couple of people, and they said, "Yeah, I've got a set that you can have for the event," and problem solved. Whereas in an M Sport Fiesta, it's sort of a bit of panic stations because, that's your only option.
That makes sense. And over the past 3 or 4 years, between when you got the car and when you moved on from the car, the shipping prices have gone up drastically. So it's a change in strategy as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was not actually that bad of a car to run, realistically considering how high the level of spec that car is. Of COVID and this, that, and the other, it just shipping went through the roof, and also time too. It was starting to take longer and longer, and some parts you just find while you're working on the car. You try and plan ahead as much as you can, but sometimes you just can't. Whereas the Subaru, how many Subarus are in Australia, and people have developed them quite a long time. So you're asking the question of people, and they know the answer already to your question pretty much. And as regards to outright cost, you're probably, you'd have to say the Subaru is more expensive, but you're in that topper end of the scale. Like there's been production cups on the podium outright for an ARC.
Yes.
Maybe not in current times because of how competitive it is, but it can be done. Whereas the two-wheel drive, you have to be a lunatic like Scott's Petter to sort of pedal up near the pointy end of the field in one of those things. But it's to and fro with anything really.
So what's happening with the Fiesta nowadays? You've moved on from that. I believe you've sold it or sold your part of it. Where is it now? And going to see some competition.
So it was a part ownership, and it's still here in Australia. I just sold on my half to the other half of the owner. I don't know if he'll actually take it out in anger. I think he's more just likes the nostalgic of the car. So I'm not sure on that.
Let's talk about Rally Queensland itself. You're busy working away, getting the car prepared. Tell me a bit about the roads, because you competed there in 2021 and you've also got some experience. I'm not sure off the top of my head whether you've competed around Imbil, but you've clearly been to plenty of the ARC rounds at Imbil. Sorry. Tell me about those roads.
Yeah, so Imbil itself is, I actually know it sort of quite well, some of the stages that they've been using in the past 5 years compared to probably years previous that some people may know from the APRC Rally Queensland. But so the roads in Imbil I did I was doing sweep event with my old man actually in the Datsun Stanza, and we're going to be using some of those bits, but we're also going to be chop and changing stuff that I've actually never used before. So as for the condition, it's typical Imbil. It'll be a little bit rough in sections, and they've sent out the stage videos, and I've seen that some bits are quite rough, and they've actually started logging in some areas. So some people may know the infamous Kandanga Hill that you come down and it's all logs, so it looks totally different to what you're used to. But I'm looking forward to doing it in a four-wheel drive car. I've only ever done it in a two-wheel drive car.
Dean Harry just said a few times in public and also to us that Kandanga is his favourite stage in Australia, and I guess one of the most difficult stages to get right. Do you share the same opinion about how hard it is?
Yeah, Brad and I have had good discussions about this stage. Kandanga has been used in the short form for Queensland for quite some time, where we start in the forestry. But the original start that most ARC people would know is using the Shire Road next to the school for about 4 or 5K beforehand, I think. But being a Shire Road, you can't really shut it down for a state round, whereas you've got a bit more authority with a national round. So Brad and I were really, really looking forward to it last year before it got unfortunately rained out. But they're using that same section of road where, people have come unstuck there before. It's a fast bit of road before you you got to pull the pace back in regards to road speed, because it ducks and dives in and around the narrow forest of Imbil. But that's one stage Brad and we're really targeting and looking forward to.
Absolutely. There'll be a lot of competition in the Production Cup alongside you guys. Bodie Reading, Steve Maguire, Glenn Brinkman is a local as well who would know those roads really well. Cameron Henry has a good car and could be on the pace too. So there's some competition around. Do you see anybody else jumping out of the pack, or one of those guys that I just mentioned being really on the pace?
Yeah, those two Tasmanians that make the trek up, Bodie and Steve, and also Glenn, that have competed in the Queensland Rally Championship. But yeah, that's what I really like about the Production Cup. It's hotly contended. It's never a dull moment, as we've seen in previous ARCs. That it's just as hotly contended as the outright championship, because with those Production Cups cars, it's the old rival of Subaru against Evo, but the people that drive them too they can steer them, that's for sure. And I'm looking forward to the battle, actually.
Yeah, it's a long list in terms of the ARC component of the field. I believe there's 30 off the top of my head in the ARC. I understand you won't be near the top end of the field in terms of top 3 or that kind of stuff. So I'm going to ask for your opinion on who you think might be at the top and in the podium, with the greatest respect to your speed personally. Do you think that it's going to be a Bates brother, or it's going to be a Quinn on top, or is there going to be somebody else, perhaps Luke Annear, who's going to jump up?
Yeah, well, I think with the Gympie stages that we've done in 21, the both Bates brothers, and Quinny was there also, but in a production car, notes for that stage for them will be pretty competitive. But where Kandanga and also Imbil, probably in the ARC field, the bloke that's done it the most is Nathan Quinn. And in that car that he's come to grips with. And he said in one of your articles that this is one of his rallies that he really wants to capitalise on experience. And I think that sort of G4 where travel is not as much as the AP4 cars, you can sort of get away with bits in sections. That'll be tough. I reckon, it'll still be Harry's quick. So he'll probably be there for the top. But then between Lewis and Quinny, it's going to be tip and tail, that's for sure.
You mentioned about the speed of the G4 car in Queensland in particular. Aaron Winder showed a lot of pace in a production spec Subaru there in 2021, and he went very, very close to a stage win on one of the Brkic tests. Is it those fast roads that you think will give Quinny that edge, perhaps, on the G4 car, having the high top speed and the like from the Mitsubishi engine?
With Rally Queensland, which I really like, there are your Bruyers and a bit at probably the start of Kandanga and the Kandanga stage itself, where the G4 car will probably be up there and close. But when you duck into Glastonbury and Widgie, where it's just tight and narrow and downhill, and that's where the AP4 will excel even more so. So it'll be a battle of not losing as much time on a Glastonbury Widgie stage to then capitalising on other stages. So, that's what I'm really looking forward to. As much as I'll be driving, is also, when I can, seeing the times of the outright boys, or they'll be putting down.
Many people are a competitor as much as they are a fan. So it's great to be able to follow it along for all of us who are listening to this podcast. But Ryan, we better let you get back to preparing your car for the rally. The names are on the bonnet, ready to go. There's a few little things to be done. Better leave you to it, and wish you all the best for the weekend. But thanks for your time, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. It's been an honour to be on here.
Are your tools going with you out of the workshop? Well, Max tool cases are ideal for motorsport professionals who need to regularly transport their toolkits. As the official protective cases of the Dakar Rally, these Italian-made products are proven to be shock, water, and dust-proof and can endure the toughest of on-site environments. Visit maxcase.com.au to learn more about the vast range of products and enter the code SPECIALSTAGE for a discount.